My heart is quite heavy at the news that Charlie Kirk, the prominent Republican political figure, was shot and very likely killed a couple of hours ago at Utah Valley University. Regardless of which side of the political spectrum we lean, such incidents should be extremely concerning to us. If somebody from the opposite side of your beliefs is being shot and killed for expressing themselves, you should be concerned too that people from your side are probably going to be met with the same reaction from the other side. Free speech is so vital because the moment that breaks down, we inevitably spiral into violence. The person who shot Charlie Kirk was probably not someone who was incapable of expressing himself, but rather someone who wanted to shut Charlie Kirk from his ability to express his views. This is what happens when we keep teaching an entire generation of kids that listening to something you don't like is tantamount to being assaulted by that person. That words are not simply words, but rather an assault. The obvious reaction to that from people who are internalizing that idea is to react violently when they hear something that they don't like. Schools have been a harbinger of these problems for a while now. The problem that we've had in schools that have gone unaddressed, whereby students are shutting down speakers simply because they don't like their views, and not simply by protesting, but by rioting, by threatening, by blockading. All of these violent acts that were meant to subdue other people from expressing their views. And somehow we kept encouraging and overlooking these problems. And this is where it's gotten us. This is what has become of our public discourse. We're incapable of listening to each other without resorting to ad hominem attacks at best and violent attacks at worst. A very likely result of an incident like this is that more and more people start to hold their opinions in. They're being shouted down. They're having to lock themselves up in some classroom or another because the students are bombarding them with all sorts of verbal and physical threats and attacks. And that tension from an inability to express continues to increase until it finally explodes into a world that none of us, including those who do not like to hear other people's opinions, would want to live in. This is why civil wars break out, because one side is not going to bow down and simply be rolled over by the other side. The perception alone of an increased amount of political violence seems to be enough to push us towards the brink of something that we do not want. And it does seem to be increasing because of all these acts of political violence we've been seeing in just this year alone. We've seen Trump almost assassinated. We've seen 2 Minnesota lawmakers shot. And this is not limited to just the US. South Korea, I believe Denmark and Slovakia have also had their share of political violence. And the list seems to go on and on. It's hard to tell one way or another whether that anxiety that so many of us feel, that the country is only getting more polarized, is manifesting itself in what seems to be an increased amount of violent political attacks, or whether it's just us being more attuned to the news than we've ever been. And as a result, it seems as though there are more attacks than ever before, when in fact, it might not be the case. It's also really disconcerting that if Charlie Kirk is in fact dead, that this will yet again, as typical of the news media, last for a couple of news cycles, and then on we go to the next problem, probably another political violent act, because we did not really reckon with where we seem to be headed towards as a country and how terrible our public discourse has become. In situations like this, it is especially crucial that we do not give more power to such violent attacks by falling into the trap of us versus them, of thinking that the other side of the political aisle are to be vilified because they are the perpetuators of such violence. We shouldn't do this because there are lunatics on each side of the political spectrum. ready to enact violence upon the other side. This is not a one-sided issue, and we should not treat it as such. It should irritate Democrats just as much as it irritates Republicans that a Republican voice has been squelched so violently. And it should also irritate Republicans when other Republicans are vilifying Democrats as being the ones who have taken one of their own. It is not Democrats. It is not Republicans. It is the lunatics among us who have been fed so much divisive rhetoric that we cannot play into by our reaction to such an incident. This is not good, regardless of which political side you're on. If you are a Democrat who enjoys living in a free society, the only responsible reaction to this is complete and utter condemnation of such political violence. And if you are a Republican who enjoys living in a free society, the only responsible reaction to this is to recognize that your fellow countrymen who happen to be Democrats are not responsible for such political violence. We are all culpable for creating this combustible situation we find ourselves in, and we are all responsible for getting ourselves out of it.